What if your New Year's resolutions are failing, but for reasons that are actually unknown to you? Before I dive into all of the fabric of this video, I'm going to make it very clear that there is absolutely no judgment here. I have nothing but compassion for people, and it is my desire to not only see everything for what it is, but also communicate that as to be able to help people. And there are a lot of things that people are actually very unaware of in regards to this specifically, New Year's resolutions, but also personal development. So I'm here to clear that all up. Something that needs to be very well understood, especially when it comes to New Year's resolutions, is that people tend to approach them from a standpoint of all or nothing. Right? You ever see somebody like they are ready for their resolutions, they're ready to attack it full on and just go after it and everything, and they're expecting and anticipating this like massive change and everything. And they're really emotional about it. They get really emotionally invested. This is the year that I'm going to do this. This is going to happen. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to do, all the noise that you hear from people. Well, the fascinating thing as I've reflected on this dynamic, this structure that is at least one or more resolutions for the new year, what I've realized is that, one, it is fucking emotional as hell. It is. I mean, look at the entire dynamic. People are entirely emotional about changing their life or changing something or multiple things in their life. But what I've noticed is that this is actually rooted in black or white thinking, in all or nothing extreme thinking, which in and of itself is rooted in emotional immaturity. People that are emotionally immature see things in a very black or white way. And they might see change in their life in a very all or nothing way. They're going to do all of this stuff or all of this one thing or nothing at all. And the fascinating thing is that like you see it's like I made this metaphor the other day where I was saying motivation in and of itself is like an energy drink. You drink it, it gives you a fuck ton of energy, and then it dies off, and then it's gone. And then you've got to take another one, another one, another one. New Year's resolutions kind of carry the same energetic dynamic. You're all excited about this thing that you're going to do, this thing that you're going to achieve. You're pumped. You're very excited. You know, you've got day one, January 1st. First week is, I guess, okay. But then over time, things start to dissipate and dissolve and get less and less interesting. Oh, and not to mention that so many people are actually doing New Year's resolutions that they don't want to do, but they're doing it for somebody else. When you do something, one, that you don't want to do, it's probably not going to last long. When you do something for somebody else, and that's also considered something that you don't want to do, it's probably not going to last long. You're not selfish for having intrinsic drive. I can imagine that there have probably been people in your life, or if it's not you, maybe somebody else, that has been shamed for apparently being selfish for what it is that they're trying to do with their life. That has everything to do with the other person that is shaming you with these ideas of selfishness, and it's just bullshit. So the reality is, you're approaching this new year from a standpoint of survival, all or nothing. This is very much rooted in anywhere between ages of infancy to toddlerhood to, it's the person is basically emotionally stagnated there. And the other thing too, you see people, they're like, oh, I'm going to quit drinking. I mean, but why? You're maybe doing it excessively, and I understand that that's an issue, but why do you have to quit? So you look at it this way, all or nothing. You're either a drinker or you're not. Why don't you consider looking at why you drink to begin with? Oh, well, I just drink to drink. No, you don't just drink to drink. You don't. You're drinking for a reason. Alcohol is a depressant. It is a numbing agent. You are probably trying to defend against some maybe emotional pain. You're trying to avoid You're trying to avoid dealing with something. It doesn't mean that you have to quit drinking. You can learn to drink in moderation. You can learn to set healthy boundaries around drinking. And by the way, this is not me trying to help people that consider themselves alcoholics. This is not me trying to help people that think that they have a drinking problem. This is just me exploring a dynamic that is very interesting. And when you look at it, you realize, oh, well, wait a second, I am actually drinking for a reason. Oh, wait a second, I am actually excessively watching movies and TV shows for a reason. Oh, I am actually excessively doing these different things for a reason. I'm trying to avoid painful thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. It is an avoidance dynamic. That's the reality of it. So if you can understand that when you approach New Year's resolutions and you want change in your life, actually, before I even continue, let me just say, if you want change in your life, that's fucking awesome, and I applaud you, and I cheer you on. I hope that you can achieve consistent long-term change in your life. But I will say that I would even argue New Year's resolutions are somewhat of a, I'll call it a tinted flag, if I'm not going to call it a red flag. It's a tinted flag. Because it's just hype. You see, like, when the stock market, crypto, for instance, when, like, Bitcoin rises, it just recently blasted past $100,000. That was a bubble. New Year's resolutions are kind of like a bubble for people. They're this bubble of hype. They're this bubble of emotion and, oh my God, I'm going to change my fucking life. You can, but what's important to understand, when I said that, what I mean is that you can change your life. But what's important to understand is that if you approach it from an all or nothing, black or white thinking standpoint, it's probably not going to last long. And also, just to really look at the dynamic for what it is, to understand black or white thinking, to understand all or nothing. If you, say for instance, you have somebody in your life that's telling you that you watch way too much fucking television. You binge watch the shit out of shows on Netflix. You're doing it for a reason, even if you're not aware of that reason. And you might be interested and like emotionally invested in the show. Okay, there might be multiple reasons there as to why you're doing it. But this is still considered an all or nothing dynamic. So first, it's all. You're excessively and obsessively watching a show. So the opposite of that is to quit altogether. Well, in my honest opinion, you don't have to quit altogether. Now, I understand that this might sound kind of controversial for people. It might be like, what do you mean? My girlfriend, my wife, my mom told me that I have to quit. I've got to stop. It's ruining my fucking life. The reality is, you might, one, be doing it because you enjoy the show. Cool. Two, you might also be doing it because you're avoiding something. A lot of resolutions have to do with the extreme version of diving into something that you would otherwise avoid. So it's like, imagine like the resolution is you're going all in, you're doing it all, you're doing everything, you're going after it full on, but the opposite of that is complete fucking avoidance. And so the issue is that black or white, all or nothing. Where's the fucking middle ground? There is a balance to be achieved. You don't have to stop watching the fucking show. It's probably a good show. So understanding that is important. Now, are you excessively watching it? You might be. Why are you? There's that gray area, that middle ground. There's the all or nothing. Why? All, nothing. I'm excessively consuming. I am not consuming at all. Why the fuck am I doing it? This is something that a lot of people don't ask themselves. Why the fuck are you drinking? It's not good or bad or right or wrong. If you do it excessively, it can be unhealthy. Why are you doing it? Are you doing it to avoid certain emotions? Are you doing it to avoid a task? Are you doing it to avoid emotional pain? Asking yourself why you're doing it is one of the massive tickets out. Really, to like get a better understanding of that, it really can transform your entire understanding of why it is that you're doing it. But really understanding that New Year's resolutions are very emotionally based. They are. They are. I'm going to change my fucking life this year and it will never be the same again. Yeah, well, you're also running against the fucking program of comfort and familiarity that's based in probably a traumatic childhood of learned behaviors, repetition, compulsion that's leading you to live that way. It's better to understand why you're doing it than to just stop doing it altogether. Which is fascinating because I should say I hear it saying. That makes no sense. I see it everywhere. I'll just say it that way. I see it everywhere. I see people telling people to stop doing things. Let's start understanding why we're doing things to begin with. You might start to realize that the reason that you are excessively watching is to self-soothe, to distract yourself, to avoid emotional pain. And that goes the same for drinking, gambling, whatever the fuck it is. Ask why. Because it's a very black or white way of going about things. I'm going to quit altogether. All right, that's probably not going to last very long. You can push it as far. I mean, don't get me wrong. If it's something that is literally fucking life-threatening, I do not condone it. I don't. I would not consider the continuation of it. But if it's something that you can learn to practice in moderation and to not utilize as a band-aid for emotional pain, that's a different thing. Then you can figure out how to create moderation around it and approach it from a much different standpoint. So this is the most important thing. It needs to be made very clear that all or nothing is really the dynamic at play here for a lot of New Year's resolutions. I feel like people approach New Year's resolutions from a standpoint of what they're going to take away from their life. Ask yourself why you're doing it. Not why you're doing the New Year's resolution. Well, also why you're doing the New Year's resolution, but also why you're doing the thing that you're trying to extremely take away. And just understand that there is a back and forth dynamic there because you're going all or nothing. First, you were all, you were excessively doing it because probably you lack healthy boundaries and you lack healthy means at this point in your conscious self-awareness journey of being able to deal with emotional pain in a healthy way. So you're going from all to nothing, black or white. And that's really the way that it works. Also, do you even want the thing that you're doing or that you're trying to get out of your life? Or are you doing it for somebody else? A lot of people's New Year's resolutions are based around what other people want for them rather than what they want for themselves. And this usually has to do with lacking a strong sense of self, a strong identity. So this is really to help you understand the whole dynamic of black or white thinking, all or nothing thinking for why your New Year's resolutions fail. So what would you do instead of it? The way that I would approach it, first and foremost, is get very familiar first with the all or nothing dynamic, the black or white thinking, the extreme. Get curious about the gray area in between, right? There's the all or nothing. All or nothing. This is the way that people process things sometimes emotionally. They see things in a black or white way. It is rooted in emotional immaturity. No judgment, but the path out is understanding this. There is a gray area. So, again, to make this very clear, what you do instead is get familiar and curious about the gray area. If you're doing something excessively, it's probably because you lack healthy boundaries and you also lack necessary emotional health to be able to work through emotional pain in a healthy way. This gray area right here between the all or nothing is the thing that you're going to focus on. And within that space, you can ask yourself why you're doing it. You can start to get more familiar with whatever it is that's going on in your mind, your emotions, your behavior. Why do I do what hold on. Why do I do what I do? Why do I drink excessively? Oh, I am avoiding painful emotions. Maybe it's different for you, but getting comfortable and familiar with all of that is probably unknown to you because it's been in the fucking gray, something that you've been unaware of for a very long time. No judgment, no shame, no guilt. It's where you are. I just see everything for what it is, and that's all that there is to it. So this gray area right here, this why am I doing it? This will bring you so much further than pushing yourself through an all or nothing dynamic for a New Year's resolution that is probably at some point going to burn out because it is short-lived. Because people that approach things from an all or nothing standpoint, they don't tend to last very long in whatever endeavor they're going after. That's the reality of it. It's short-lived. It's all or nothing. And then it's fucking over. Like, let me make it very clear. Also, this is very important to understand. When you excessively indulge, consume something, you are creating an emotional, neurochemical dynamic within your entire fucking system that gets very used to that. To go from that all to nothing, that's where I've heard it said, and I don't like the word because it's still the same issue running in a fucking circle, relapsing. No, I don't like that word. I don't buy it. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's just another marker that misleads you. Oh, I fucking relapsed. Here's a good opportunity for you to understand why you're fucking doing it. You don't have to quit. Again, unless it is like totally fucking life-threatening. Just understand why you're doing it. Ask yourself why. Okay, so again, let me make this very clear. Many New Year's resolutions fail because of extreme all or nothing thinking. What do you do instead? Well, if this is the all or nothing dynamic, you get very curious about the gray. Black, white, gray. Put them together. Sit with it. Understand yourself. Ask yourself questions. Sit with what it is that you're feeling. Get more familiar with what it is that you're feeling, what your body's feeling, what it's trying to communicate to you. You might be... I don't like labels. Again, I do not like labels, and I try not to use them. Actually, what I'll just say is because it is an actual behavior. You might be avoiding. If you are avoiding, it's important to understand, one, that you are, two, why you are. The gray, not the black or white. The gray. The gray is the why. It is the place that if you sit with it, you will better understand your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. Now, before I end off this video, if you do want to make change in your life, this is actually one of the most important things as a starter point that you can do to give yourself a better understanding of why you are the way that you are. Because you're going to need to understand why you are the way that you are in order to make change in your life. Because there is a fucking automatic subconscious and unconscious program that is running you. It is having you make the decisions that you're doing. It is having you excessively consume or none at all the while completely neglecting the gray area of why. So understanding that can really transform a lot for you. And again, if you want to make change in your life, taking this first step of getting familiar with the gray area of why will really help you. Because you might realize that you actually don't want to get rid of some of the things that you do because you like them. What you're looking for is much more moderation. What you're looking for is to understand, if you avoid, why you avoid. Why you utilize substances or media to self-soothe. to avoid painful emotions. Your life can change in a very profound way, but it does require you to show up consistently and choose to understand yourself, choose new and different behaviors that might feel uncomfortable. But over the long term, this is what is consistent. And understanding that is the transformation. You might want something new this year, and that's great. I applaud you. I applaud you for choosing to become better for yourself. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you have an understanding that you want something maybe different for yourself. And you can have that, but it's important to understand why you're doing it. It's important to understand why you do what you do. You don't have to cut things out of your life altogether. You can have healthy boundaries and have moderation and understand that you avoid painful emotions for XYZ reason. I think the most important thing that you can do for yourself is to get a better understanding of yourself this year. Dive into yourself.